Hi, welcome. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the risk assessment and management of safety construction. So let's just have a look at it, what exactly we are looking at. Well, first of all, we need to understand what are the risk area. And then we need to do is that find out how we can actually manage those area. And this is what is very, very important in any kind of safety construction project areas that you are looking at. So when you're looking at the importance of risk assessment in construction, we need to be looking at a few of these points to actually see that why risk assessment is very important within the area. Because if you can actually figure things out way before it actually occurs, then you can actually mitigate all of those problems without any problem. So what you need to do is that you need to understand that what exactly. Now that means that you need to start with a deep strategy in terms of how to develop that to prevent any kind of problem happening from to start with. Now, some of these problems are very, very obvious. You can actually walk in and you can actually see what can go wrong, and you can actually prevent that by developing some sort of a strategy for that. But sometimes it is difficult to actually see what is happening, and for that you need to actually, as I call it, be part of that, which means that you are being in that environment and seeing what can go wrong. So be in the shoes of the worker to actually see what is happening. So ensure that none of these, breaking any of the codes of conduct, none of the compliance are basically messed with, and people have actually followed all the rules and regulations, which is important. That's why it is very important to assess the risk before anything can go wrong. Let's just have a look at that. There are four, few steps that we need to be looking at to see that what exactly do we need to do to prevent that. So steps in risk assessment, the first one is that hazard identification. The second one is risk analysis. The third one is the risk evaluation. Then we are talking about the control measures, and then monitoring and reviewing. So let's look at all of these one at a time. So if you're looking at the hazard identification, if I walk into a construction site, the first thing I'm going to say, okay, this equipment should not be used because it's probably old, not updated, not upgraded, so we cannot use that. We are basically following the rules and regulations, following the equipment, following the policies and procedures. So what exactly we can do to actually control that environment? So you are walking in to identifying all of those hazards which can occur. Now, these things are very, very obvious, as I said. Now, so what you need to do is that sometimes you have to analyze those risks. And then for analyzing those risks, you need to understand that what can go wrong. If it can go wrong, what would be the severity of that? Now, severity is very, very important because you need to understand that, how bad the action or reaction is going to happen to the situation if something goes wrong. And for that, you need to control that environment so that it will not be like that. I mean, sometimes that, you do not want to have any kind of injury turn into fatality. Now, if that happens, now that is going to hold up your project. That is going to create an investigation. That means that you're going to be under the scrutiny. And then there's going to be quite a lot of repercussion in terms of your clients, your businesses. So you need to understand that you need to analyze the risk in terms of the severity of the things. Then we are looking at the risk evaluation. We need to evaluate that what can go wrong. Here, we are talking about prioritizing, different kinds of based on severity. So if you're talking about a person not wearing his helmet, can, hit by a debris. But the thing is, if you do not allow that person to go over there or put some sort of barrier, it means that you will reduce that. You may not be able to cut down the debris which is falling from the top, but what you're doing is you're preventing that. So you need to put the priorities in action and make sure that none of these priorities are messed with. Then you are looking at the control measures, that by putting the different areas that what you need to do to control if there is a problem, that how we can actually solve it. As I said before, if something is falling from the different levels in the construction, what you can do is that you can put some sort of a preventive guard over there to actually protect people, debris falling on people. So these kind of things, like develop and implement control measure. Now remember that all of these things are there to prevent, and this is a continuous thing. It's not that one-off. We're also looking at the monitoring, reviewing, which is very, very important, that every time you go there, you monitor the situation, you review the situation, and then you realize that few of the changes are needed. Make those changes happen. So if you do not do this, that means that you are letting things go in a kind of a wrong way. What you need to do is that you need to keep on reviewing, monitoring to see the situation, and then correct the measures, right? And then what you need to do is that risk management in construction, something is very, very important. The safety training and education is important part of this prevention. If you do not train people properly, then there is going to be a problem. And that means that, people should be provided a kind of a right kind of training to actually overcome all of these kind of problems. And education is very, very important. Remember, I said that before this, some of these laborers may not be, highly skilled. They might be just unskilled laborers. And when that happens, you need to provide the right kind of construction environment for them. You need to provide the right kind of training environment for them. You need to give them the right kind of equipment so they can actually function in a kind of a safe environment. We'll also be looking at the communication and collaboration. This is very, very important. Why is it important? Because people need to know what is happening. Workers need to know what is happening. Either you can, have a daily briefing that this is what we're going to be doing. These are the safety things that you have to follow. Or you need to have, different kind of poster around the area, signboard around the area to prevent any kind of problem which can create a kind of a big problem for the. So communication and collaboration between the management and the working environment is very, very important. We also need to be looking at the risk management in terms of like construction when we are looking at the documentation and record keeping. Very, very important to have. Remember that project can last 3 to 4 years. Sometimes it can be longer. And you need to understand that each and every reported incident, each and every investigated incident, each and every near misses needs to be documented and documented properly. So we can actually go back and see in the life cycle of the project that what has gone wrong or what we need to do, what we did to improve. This is a learning curve. You can actually use that in an environment where you can actually learn from it in not only in the same project but other projects as well. So you need to understand what is happening. We need to look at the regular inspection and audit as well, which is very, very important in a life of a project, that you need to have several audits needs to be done so we can actually see that what is happening, where things can go wrong, or what we can do to prevent things, what we can do to improve things. These are the things which is like many respect it's a common sense, but when a working environment, what we can do to actually see that, how we can improve that. We are talking about continuous improvement. That I said that many times. Continuous improvement is a very, very important thing to have, to see where things are going wrong and what we can do to engage and see what we can do to improve. And this continuous improvement is something within the project and other projects as well. You can apply that from that. So we can need to apply continuous improvement, which is important thing to have. Thank you.